My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey, folks, welcome back. Today, zooming in from a very, very popular state at this time that we're recording this. We've got Steve Franco, who is a real estate entrepreneur. He does a whole bunch of different stuff, and we're going to talk a lot about wholesaling today. So, Steve, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Hey, thanks very much. And, great to be here. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. So, as we're recording this, literally, it's voting day in the US of A. You're in a very, very popular state. Tell everybody a little bit about where you're at.
So I'm in northeastern Pennsylvania, which is the upper right corner. You've all probably seen The Office, hopefully on reruns.
Scranton. Yep. Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. Flyover market. I'm originally from Boston and television, so but this is sort of where I ended up, and it's very much a battleground state.
Yeah.
So it's a bit exciting on the national level.
It is exciting. It's exciting to be in the spotlight. All right, Steve. So tell us a little bit about what you do when it comes to real estate and real estate investing. And then we'll dive into what we're going to talk about here today, which is wholesaling.
Yeah, so I'm a landlord, broker, real estate investor. I've been doing real estate part-time since 97. So I've pretty much done everything, teach it, whatever. And wholesaling is where I spend a lot of my time, either doing it or teaching people it, because it is the easiest way to get in with little or no money down, little or no experience. And I'm not one of these, oh, you don't need anything. Well, you do, but it's definitely a good entry way to get someone in there and get their feet wet and understanding how real estate can make money.
Now, let me ask you this, because back in the day, long time ago for me now, when I was doing creative type deals, realtors hated my guts being a creative type real estate investor and doing wholesalesy type deals. And, they had a scarcity mindset around stealing potential commissions from them and all this kind of stuff. What are your thoughts about how this works nicely with your work as a realtor, as a broker?
I mean, for me, it balances out great, especially with the recent change in the Pennsylvania law, where after January 8th, you have to be a licensed agent to do wholesaling of residential unit 1 through 5 properties. And I look at being an agent broker now as being an extra tool in the box. When I was just a wholesaler, okay, I can buy your house, I can flip it, or I can sell it to somebody else who's going to buy it or flip it. And if we couldn't come to an off-market discounted value deal, that was where my game ended. I had nothing left.
Yeah.
Now, being an agent broker, I can say, well, I could also list you. And you're also able to give them a lot more advice, because I'm able to say with certainty, listen, I could list you for 100, I could buy you for 50. I buy you for 50, it's going to be a lot faster and less painful. If I list you for 100, it's going to take longer, maybe more painful. But I can give them a real world example of what they're gaining or losing, whichever way they go.
Yeah, smart. You see it from both sides of the fence, right? That's the big advantage there.
And also, because I'm an investor, I'm a flipper, and I've done all those kinds of creative financings and whatever, I can lay out the whole menu. Well, we could get you a loan for this, we could do this for that, we could do that for that. And at the end of the day, yes, I'm here to make money. We're all here to make money, but it's really about solving the client's problem, the seller, the buyer, whatever. I've had people who had to bring thousands of dollars to the table as sellers. They were the selling ones bringing money to the table. And they tried to kiss me, and they literally have a woman bake me cookies because she was so happy that I was basically pocketing $9,000 for money because I solved the problem she was having. Yeah. And that's what wholesaling is.
Okay, so walk people through, how does wholesaling typically work? What do you find these days is working well for generating leads? What kind of price point or loan, after repaired value, after repaired value type of thing do you have to go into? Just kind of give us the big broad strokes of what that looks like, Steve.
Yeah, okay. So basically, I mean, on the numbers side of how you figure out if it's a good deal, it all comes down to which direction the exit strategy is for your investor. Because as a wholesaler, you're probably not the guy holding the bag at the end.
Hmm.
And I'll just give people this. There's usually two answers. It's a rental or it's a flip. If it's a flip, 70% of after repair value. So if after repair value is 100, the most I can spend as a flipper on the deal, bought, fixed, sold, in the bag, done, is 70 grand. Then I minus out my repair costs and I minus out my wholesale fee and I minus out some holding costs. And I can offer the seller 20 grand because 70 minus 50 and all that other stuff. And that's, I'm at 20. Mr. Seller, you like 20, you don't like 20.
Hmm.
If it's a rental, that's one number. The other number is what's it going to make in terms of cash flow? What's it going to cost me to rehab it to the point that it makes that cash flow? And then what does that cash flow look in terms of a purchase value now? For example, if it's going to, sorry, I should not have done something. If it's going to rent for $1,000 a month, and that's going to let's pay say be $100,000 mortgage, and it's going to take me $60,000 to get to the repaired level that $1,000 a month payment is valid, then right now the property is worth 30 or 40 grand. It's worth
Hmm.
100. What it's going to pay for a mortgage minus the amount it's going to take me to get there. And that's really the math. But the challenge a lot of wholesalers have is that they don't understand that math, and they say
Yeah.
the seller wants this number, so I'm going to offer this number, and or I want to make this number, so I'm going to sell it for this number. Those two things mean nothing because that's not going to get you the buyer. It's the end buyer saying, Mr. Wholesaler, you have a good deal. That's what matters.
Hmm.
And then you go back to the seller and you say, well, here's why. I know you want $250,000 for your house, but here's what it's actually worth. If you want $250,000, please go to your local realtor and see what they can do for you. If you want 150,000, that's what I can do for you. And that's really the game in wholesaling, and also making sure you do everything ethically and legally for your community. I always have to say that because that's where wholesaling gets its bad name.
Yeah.
People doing dirty stuff, no disclosures, no contracts, whatever, thousand different options of that. So it's really important to make sure that you're not just being nice, but you're also being legal, correct, and honest.
Which is probably why, your state has decided to clamp down on this and force everybody who wants to do wholesale deals to jump through the hoops to become a realtor, go through all those courses and ethics and understand the rules and all that kind of stuff, and be obligated legally to give that kind of disclosure. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Pennsylvania Association of Realtors drafted some versions of the law that were horrible and never get out of the Attorney General's office. And this version of the law is also only marginally better. It does not protect the consumer the way I hoped it would. It doesn't even say the most basic thing. You have to tell the consumer they're getting less money.
Hmm.
But that was the driving force. The driving force was the number one complaints on real estate to the Attorney General's office, the State House, and the PAR, Pennsylvania Association of Realtors, where this wholesaler did nasty things.
Hmm.
And literally, one of the people on the PAR ledge committee told me, he's like, we took action because we had to make it look like we took action. We didn't know what action to take, but we had to do something.
we, we had to make a point. So, Steve, what are you finding that's working best these days for you and your students when it comes to doing wholesale deals for generating leads? Because I don't think you're in a really big market, are you? You're in a fairly small market, right?
I'm in a small market, and unlike a lot of wholesalers, I do a very limited amount of virtual wholesaling. Like I'll wholesale around Pennsylvania, and I'll wholesale. Now, when I get into commercial self storage, I'll do those anywhere because I do a lot of commercial work. But
Mm-hmm.
in the residential stuff, I like to stay where I have boots on the ground. I like to stay where I can call up a friend and say, "Hey, Jamie, you're in state college. What's this address look like? What's the neighborhood like?" As opposed to, oh, I caught a house in, Poughkeepsie, Alabama, and I've never been to Poughkeepsie, but I'm going to take a guess at what that's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
I find that for me, it's always been inbound leads. It's been reputation. It's been our website. My partner Ryan does a great job with our We Buy Houses in Pennsylvania website. And the outbound reach, which is really what we've gotten into recently, meaning direct mail, calls, bandit signs, those run hot and cold depending on which sector. We're finding that direct mail is working pretty well. We're finding bandit signs are working pretty well. Our favorite one, though, is we have a JV team, and we do this nationwide, and well, I guess we could do it internationally, but we haven't crossed the border yet. Um, where we have people who live in a market and they're finding leads in their market, and then when they catch the lead, they bring it to us, and we're sort of what I call the wholesale broker. meaning
So you got bird dogs in different markets, basically.
exactly, and pretty much
Hmm.
it's a 50-50 split. They take half the profit. So they'll catch a fish, we'll show them how to cook it and turn it into dinner, and it'll go out the other side. And that works great because frankly, I don't have cost up front. I have cost on
Yeah.
the back end. And I'm helping people learn a skill. And yes, I'd love to sell them a course too, but I'm helping people learn a skill where they're not having to invest in it. They're just saying, hey, I'm a salesperson. I sell used cars. I sell this. I sell that. Let me see how I apply that over. But what I find what's interesting about wholesale real estate and real estate in general is there is no one recipe. I've got a friend who swears by his bandit signs. Every year, Lucy buys houses shows up like weeds all over my community, and his name is not Lucy. I have other friends who do direct mail and they do, cold calling and they do texting, cold calling, texting, emailing. Watch the federal laws. I don't know about Canada, but in the U.S., you're talking tens of thousands of dollars in fines if you do it wrong.
Hmm.
But everyone kind of has their shtick that works for them. Everyone ends up with their style of what works and doesn't work. For me, I rotate the styles. But I don't have that one that works. But I've got some wholesalers that are like, all I do is direct mail. I do direct mail. This is what I do. And I believe it's important the credibility of your story when you're talking. First of all, listening to the seller on their story and why they're
Hmm.
selling is almost more important than the building, but also your credibility. Are you, oh, I read a book about wholesaling and that's why you should work with me because I saw a video. It looks cool.
Yeah.
Or are you coming in with the story my students have of, well, I'm pretty good. I'm kind of knowledgeable. My partner's owned real estate since 1997, and my partner could buy this house, 100 times over. Da, da, da. That story resonates with the sellers. Are you going to be able to deliver on your promises?
Hmm.
And are you not tying them up for 60, 90, 180 days on a contract? I'm saying, listen, if I can't find you a buyer in 3 to 4 weeks, I can't find you a buyer. So in 3 to 4 weeks, I'll either be buying you or I'll be releasing you.
Hmm.
And that's what resonates now because the sellers have been everyone's heard a bad story.
Hmm. Yeah.
So really that honesty and integrity is really what resonates with people, however you catch the fish.
No, that makes a lot of sense, Steve. No, very, very, very good. So, what would you say on average would be kind of the wholesale fee that you and your students are able to get on a typical deal these days? I know it's going to be all across the board depending on the value of the property and all that kind of stuff. But if you had to come up with a ballpark average, what do you think it is?
So we're less depressed now than we were because we're also one of the darlings in terms of real estate investing as far as rental cap rates and everything else. We're a pretty phenomenal return market compared to most of the US. But before COVID, if I was getting three, maybe $5,000 per wholesale deal as a wholesale spread, that was actually pretty big. I'd pick something up for 5 or 10 grand and I'd sell it for 15, maybe, 16, 15, whatever. Now we're more averaging 10, we're picking something up for 50, we're selling it for 60, maybe picking it up for 40, selling it for 70. I
Mhm.
think the biggest wholesale, and I'm talking single or double, I'm not talking commercial stuff. Not the biggest, but 30 grand's a big wholesale fee down here.
That's huge. So
Yeah,
what would you say is the average these days?
the average is probably around 10, 12,
Yeah.
somewhere in that range. That seems to be where a lot of them hover. And you know what? There are deals that are like, oh, we're gonna make. I'm doing one now in Farrell, Pennsylvania, which is northwest corner. There's three of us, and we're each taking home a grand. And it's like, you know what? That kind of isn't great. Don't want to use any bad words, but it's better than not making anything. And the seller got their solution. They got their number. They had nowhere further down they could go. Now you get into subject two, you get into some of the creative stuff, and it can get a little more, that there's sometimes ways to play games like I'm going to get 5 grand up front, but I'm going to make an extra $100 a month for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm actually getting a different number. But we're hovering somewhere around the 10, 12 range. My Philly deals, my Philly deals, my bigger town deals are probably more like 15 to 20. But in what I call the flyover markets, the tertiary cities, 10, 12, that seems to be really the numbers we're hanging.
Very cool. I think a lot of people get excited about wholesaling without really understanding how much work's involved to generate the leads to turn into those deals. Like we hear, you know, we hear these numbers 10, 12 grand per deal, but you don't understand that, there might be 10 to 20 grand going out to generate the leads that turn into all those deals, like more than just one deal kind of thing. But there's
Yeah.
quite a machine that has to be set up. So maybe tell us a little bit about that side of things.
Yeah, and for the most part, my partner and I are growing our machine. Again, we sort of had apples falling off the truck for the last several years, but and I mean you do have to invest. Like we invest several $1,000s a month in various forms of advertising, pay per
Mhm.
click ads, or sending out mailers, or I mean just to have a cold caller is $4, $5, $6 an hour if you're using one of those countries,
Mhm.
and then you have to have a dialer, and then you have to have data, and then you have to have this and a CRM, and da da da. I mean, just running that operation on a small scale with one person full time, that could be $3,000 or $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's an interesting game because then on the labor, you say, oh well, I'm still making $8,000 on that deal. Okay, great. Well, some deals are literally in and out in less than an hour of our time. You know, go send someone to take pictures of it, post the ad, send it to our group, get a buyer, pay up, we're done. I mean, I've done deals where it was a $20,000 spread and maybe I had 10 hours into it. And then I've done deals where it was a $5,000 spread and it was like 100 hours of pulling teeth. I had one over the summer where
Yeah.
the buyer and seller were just arguing and it was nitpicking. And I'm sitting in there in the middle of the lake on a family vacation. And I probably had 40 hours in it on the week of my vacation, let alone the whole deal.
Yeah.
But you know what? You got to take the good with the bad. And at the end of the day, you cash the check and you're like, okay, time to do it again. What a lot of wholesalers forget is they live high, some of them live high on the hog on, wow, I made $150,000 this quarter on wholesaling. Okay, what asset did you buy that's going to make you money passively?
Yeah.
Or did you just simply bought 150,000, you got $150,000, went out and bought Corvette or whatever, and now what do you got?
Mhm.
You got to, you do, a lot of people do wholesaling to start their investing career. I'm not saying don't live off the money. I'm not saying don't party, but realize that it's like a potato chip. I made 5 grand and now I'm hungry for the next chip.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's the challenge with any of these kind of strategies. That's very transactional. Same thing with flipping. Same thing with rent to own type deals. It's all great, but as soon as that one's done, you got to find another one to fill up the coffers again.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome, Steve. Well, this has been great. I'm sure there's going to be some people saying, "Hey, that Steve Franco guy sounds pretty smart. I'd like to connect with him." So if they want to
Yeah.
do that, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can find me on Facebook. I'm everywhere, but the easiest way is to go to reihomepage.com, REI Real Estate Investor Homepage.com. And if you want to learn, reihomepage.com is a section called /changes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where some of the more innovative stuff exists, like the new Pennsylvania state law stuff. So reihomepage.com. That's also where I have all the resources that I use. How you check flood zone maps, and some of my calculators are there. And just reach out to me. Facebook, LinkedIn, I'm everywhere else too. But reihomepage.com is really the brand.
Awesome, Steve. Thanks for being on the show.
Appreciate it so much, Sam. Thank you, sir.
All right, everybody, take care, and we'll
Thanks.
see you on the next one. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.